How do we question what we know about the world? How do we discover truth, change ideas, or question authority? Usually, we have a debate between two sides who state their positions and reasons, and generally it's thought that one side will come out a winner. The problem is that those who show up for one side of the debate will typically leave on the same side. Enter Socrates, the famous teacher and philosopher. He was born in ancient Greece about 470 BCE. He said, "True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us." Socrates was widely considered to be the wisest man in the land, to which he would say, "What I do not know, I do not think I know." He was ultimately put on trial and executed by poison for not invoking the gods when explaining the universe and teaching the young to think differently. His biggest legacy is the Socratic Method. The Socratic Method is used to help determine underlying beliefs and challenge conventional knowledge by identifying exceptions. It is a way of thinking and examining the validity of ideas. You start with a statement considered fact or common sense. Next, you look for an exception to that statement. If an exception is found, you change the statement to take the exception into account. This process is continued for as long as possible. An example found in the first link below begins by stating justice is giving people what belongs to them. An exception? Is it justice to give an axe murderer his axe? Assuming you say no, the initial statement must be changed to allow for the exception. Then we might say justice is saving the maximum number of lives. Does that mean we divert funds to a prison to care for 20 serial killers rather than to an orphanage to feed, clothe, and educate only 18? The ultimate conclusions are not the point. If you're thinking, it's working, and you keep working, possibly forever. There are many other famous philosophers from the ancient world, too many to cover here, but some notables and their ideas, very briefly, are as follows. Thales, born, let's say, 624 BCE, is recognized as the first person to reject mythology as a way of explaining things, preferring deductive reasoning, theories, and mathematics. He's credited with the first mathematical discoveries and the first to predict a solar eclipse. He hypothesized that all nature originated from one thing, water. Anaximander, born, let's say, 610 BCE, and successor to Thales, rationalized that the origin of things must be unlimited, emerging from a primordial chaos taking form in the four elements water, air, fire, and earth. Water can only be wet and not dry, he reasoned, and could not be the origin of all things. He also believed there were many worlds and said fish were ancestors of humans, possibly the first mention of evolution in history. Xenophanes, born about 570 BCE, studied fossils of fish on land and concluded that water once covered the earth. However, he was also known to distinguish between true belief and knowledge, meaning it is okay to act as if we know the truth as long as we know we could be wrong, and evidence is the best way to prove an idea. His poems were critical of religious beliefs. He pointed out that an Ethiopian god looks like an Ethiopian, and a Thracian god looks like a Thracian. He wrote, "But if cattle and horses and lions had hands, or could paint with their hands and create works such as men do, horses like horses and cattle like cattle also would depict the gods' shapes and make their bodies of such a sort as the form they themselves have." Now we get to Plato, possibly the most influential man in the Western world. Born in 427 BCE, he taught in a field outside the city walls of Athens known as the Academy, which is where the word originates. It's thought that all of his writings have survived, which includes the teachings of Socrates. In Plato's writings, Socrates states the soul is divided into three sections: reason, found in the head, spirit in the chest, and appetite in the gut area. Plato believed God was perfect, not a ruler, but an artist, so stories about gods who behaved like men were false, but he justified teaching by using myths because it's more interesting. He described matter as having 5 states of being made up of geometric shapes. The dodecahedron of the universe, its 12 sides corresponded to the 12 astrological signs, plus the 4 elements: icosahedron of water, octahedron of air, tetrahedron of fire, and hexahedron or cube of earth. He states in the Timaeus, "We must imagine all these to be so small that no single particle of any of the 4 kinds is seen by us on account of their smallness. But when many of them are collected together, their aggregates are seen." It was advanced thinking for someone who thought the earth was the center of the universe. He thought that after the Creator had made all of the forms, he made an eternally moving image of them, and this is what we know of as time. And finally, Aristotle, born 384 BCE, a student of Plato and nearly his equal in terms of influence. He catalogued about 500 species of animals and noted they were highly suited to their functions. He followed the 4-element model and added ether as a divine substance of the heavens. He placed earth at the center, water rests on top of earth, air is above water, and fire is above air, and ether is, again, the heavens. The 4 elements are jumbled up, but trying to get back to their essential place. Air and fire want to go up, and earth and water fall down. The classic elemental model would not be replaced until modern chemistry was born in the 18th century. Athens would fall and was absorbed into the Roman Empire. Greek philosophy was mostly opposed by the various religious ideas that encountered it. All the while, most of the original Greek works would be lost. Almost 2,000 years later, widespread translations and literacy of what remained would ignite the Renaissance.